Hey guys, it's Shannon and welcome back to my channel. So, today's video we'll be talking about SSAT tips and tricks. I told you guys that I'll be making videos back to back. So yesterday's video I talked about just the general application tips and tricks, and today I'll be getting into the specifics about the SSAT. And in another video next Sunday I'll be talking about interview tips and tricks. I would love if you guys can go check out my business called Kiss Cosmetics Co. We sell homemade, vegan, and cruelty-free cosmetics products. I would love if you guys can support me. I am making lip glosses and trimming body oils currently, and I'll be coming out with some new products for you guys. The website will be right here and linked in the description box down below. And I also hope if you guys can follow me on social media. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So the SSAT is, let me get my phone. It is the secondary school admission test, and there are like 3 versions of it. So it's the elementary, the middle, and the upper school. And if you're applying to boarding school for high school, you'll be taking the upper version of the test. And I'm gonna be looking at my phone just because like I have the specifics on it. And so it's basically just like the verbal, quantitative, and the reading skills sections, and then you also have another additional writing section that is like 15 to 25 minutes. So the quantitative section is basically math, so like basic operations, basic fractions, like algebra, geometry, the whole works. Next is the verbal. So I hate the verbal section so much. It's like the synonym and analogies. Like I could not stand it. It was like this is to this, like that is to that. So it's like dog is to cat, like B is to blank. Like it's so random, and then they'll give you 4 or 5 options of what it can go to, and I demolished. It was bad. Like I did not understand that section at all because there were so many different possibilities of what you can put in there. But the next portion is the reading section. So basically read a passage and analyze it, and they'll give you some like questions for you to answer about the passage and blah blah blah. So that's basically what the test is about. So let's get into these tips and tricks. And actually I'm gonna tell you guys what my score was. I took the SAT 2 times. The first time I absolutely bombed it, and I still absolutely bombed it the second time. And my school actually, like on our like school wide portal thing, they actually have your test scores from every single thing. So this was January 10th 2015, and I got 1995. I forgot what the test was out of, but it says I was the 53rd. My rank was a 53. I don't know how I possibly got into boarding school with that score, but anything is possible, y'all. Like I'm telling you that from now. Like if you don't have hope for your test scores, look at me as an example that anything is possible, and that the application is not solely based on your test scores, even though you should still try really hard. It's not solely based on your test scores, but I'm gonna be here to help you to let you know how to increase your score, even though I didn't. So my first tip is pretty obvious. First, take your first practice test. Take your first practice test for the allotted time that they give you with the breaks included. Take that and see and calculate your score and see what you get for each section. Now, if you're a strong math person but you're not so good on reading or verbal, then you know, okay, I can allot more of my time for verbal and reading. And then vice versa. If you're good at reading but you're not so good at math, you can allot your time for those sections and make sure that you work on those skills to make sure that you boost those sections. Just because if you're really good at one section, there's no point in like studying like really heavily on that section when you have other sections that need to be improved. So when you take your practice test, make sure that you see what you need to improve on, what specific topics that you mess up on. So like if you're in math and you didn't do so well in geometry, you know, okay, I need to work on geometry specifically for my math because it's bringing my grade down. And if you work on those for a really long time, then you're solid. Next is to make sure that you give yourself enough time to study. And I know that seems like a dumb tip, but it's so true. Like, people will think that just because I learned this stuff in school, especially if you're in public school, I thought that was a challenge for me, that I was like, okay, I learned algebra in school, like it'll be fine. But no, the test is really hard, and it kind of is tailored for those that were in private schools before. Of course, like, you can be in public school and still do like phenomenal, but they are really, really hard. And I thought that I would ace it just because I learned it, but there are some topics that you may not have learned in your schools, and that you need to teach yourself, especially if your teachers won't teach you it. So make sure that you give yourself like minimum like 6 months minimum. And you have to take the test. I suggest taking the test over again if you didn't like do well the first time. So give yourself minimum 6 months in order to like take your first practice test, like continuing to practice every day. Because if you give yourself enough time to study and you see what you need to work on, then you have enough time to learn that skill. You're not gonna be able to start studying a month before you take the test, and then you notice that you have a lot of disparities in what you know in the skills that they are testing you for in the test, and you're just like, okay, it's not going to take you a month to like know the things and know the test. You need to be able to know the test in and out, and you're not gonna, like, a month is not going to give you enough time to do that. My third tip is to make sure that you're consistent with your studying. And in the previous tip I said that you should like probably allot like 6 months minimum, maybe 4 months, but just because you have 6 months to study does not mean that you're going to be consistent with that. And you can't be like, okay, I have 6 months and then study like one time every 3 weeks, because that's not going to help you improve your score. What I suggest is studying for probably an hour to 2 hours every week, or every like 4 days, or every couple days, to make sure that you're consistent with the test. So for what I did, this is from like my college process, but it still applies to like the board school process, is just taking a practice test every week at the beginning of the week and seeing what you were weaker in for that test, and then work on that skill throughout the week. And that you can definitely see some improvements if you take a practice test every week, so you get familiar with the test, which is a super important thing. If you're not familiar with the test and you don't know how much time you have for certain things, or how fast you should pace yourself for each question, then you're not going to do as well because you ran out of time, or you didn't really know what was coming up next. But if you take practice every week, if you like study consistently for your weaknesses and for your strengths, you're able to like get familiar with the test. You go into the testing day, you know what's going to be next, you know what question they're going to ask you, and you're going to do great. My fourth tip is for those that are really, really slow, or they take a slower amount of time for the test. One tip that I have is just, it also ties back to my previous tip, was just taking those practice tests every day, because once you get used to that timing, then you can go a lot faster, or learning different strategies that you can use to make the process a lot slower. So if you're like, I don't even have an example, but just find ways to answer certain like math problems that you may use a long way, but find a shorter way so that you can get that out pretty quickly. But like another tip that I have, if you're really slow, is to check if you are available, like if you have the option of getting extra time. So when I was taking the SAT, I did not have extra time, and that was also probably why I didn't do as well as I possibly could have, because I didn't know that I needed to have extra time, because I literally my brain could not process that much information in such a small period of time that I needed to have consistent breaks. Like I needed to have time to process, or a longer time to process, and it's unfortunate that I didn't have that when I was younger, but now I do have that. And if you think that it takes you a long time to process information, if you need breaks in between sections, like if you need more breaks in between sections to like make your brain just like relax, then you should definitely look into getting extra time from the SSAT organization. And that means that you probably have like a hidden disability that you don't really know about. And this isn't to say like for every single person, like if you take slower and if your brain is able to like process it, that you can easily just be like, hey, give me extra time, because you need to have proof from someone. Like I have to go to like a specialist, and I have to take like this long test for them to give me extra time. So it's not like you go to them and be like, hey, give me extra time. You need to have proof of why you deserve extra time. And if you do get that, then that would be really beneficial for those that their brain simply cannot process that much information in a short amount of time. My next tip is specific to the reading/verbal section, and it is when you read the question, do not look at the answer choices. Instead, you should make up your own answer for it, write it down, and then look at answer choices to see which one matches well with your answer. So that can eliminate you just like reading the other answers and being like, hey, is this correct? Like maybe it's this one, maybe it's that one. But if you already know the answer to the question without looking at answer choices, then you just find the one that matches with your answer. You save so much more time trying to decipher each one. Unless you truly don't know the answer, then it's helpful to look at the answer choices. Or if the question is like, which one of the following ... then you're gonna have to look at the answer choices. But for the most part, you should try to look at your own answer choices, try to get through that, like try to make up your own answer, look at answer choices, and then you'll be great. My next tip is goes towards like guessing and when should you guess. So in the SAT, you get 1 point for a correct answer, half point off for a wrong answer, and then no point off for if you didn't answer the question. So what you should try to do is try to take off as many answer choices as possible. And if you're down to 2 answer choices, it's good to try to guess if you're down to 2, because you do have a 50% chance of getting it right or wrong. So you have to be like really like you have to really know when is the right time to guess. But if you are running out of time, try to get to as many questions as possible that you know you can get right. But if you don't know the answer to some questions, it's okay to leave it blank because you won't get penalties off for it anyway. My next tip is specific to reading, and that is you can pick which passage that you're going to read. There's no specific order to like what passage you're going to do. Like you don't need to read the passage in order, and that's what a lot of people fail to realize, is that you have free reign when you're in that section. Once you're in the section, you can do whatever you want with it, with math, verbal, reading. You can do whichever questions that you want. So for reading, you can, if you're really good at the story readings because you like them, you're more interested in them, or if you're more interested in the historical readings and you know that you can get through them, or if it's a shorter passage and you feel like you can get through that pretty quickly, then you should try to do those readings first so that you can get as many questions right as possible, so that you can leave the harder passages for later on, so that like even if you don't get to do it, like you're not really putting yourself in like a bad position, because you like answer the easier ones first and you get those right, and then you're leaving the ones that you don't know and you're not going to get points taken off for it. That is it for my tips and tricks video. I will probably make a part 2 to this later on, but my camera is dying. I hope that you guys like this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And please tell me what new videos that you guys want me to make, even though I'm making my interview video. If you guys want another boarding school specific video, please tell me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!